What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So, a little bit of a different setting here because I had an idea for like a series that I wanted to do that's kind of, I don't want to say it's like separate from the main stuff I do on the channel, but I wanted it to have kind of its own different thing. And this isn't going to be like the permanent backdrop for this. It just happens to be where I am today doing this. But I made a video a long time ago. I think it might have been one of the first, maybe like 5 or so videos I made, where I made a video about the first Gibson Les Paul I ever got. And I was kind of thinking back on that video, and I was talking to somebody the other day about like their favorite guitar, and I had this idea for a series, and I'm going to call this Guitar Stories. I know, super original, but the basic idea behind this is I want to interview people who are my friends and people that are in bands that I know, and I want to get people's stories about their favorite guitar, or like their most sentimental guitar, or just whatever guitar they pick. You know, a guitar that is kind of sentimentally different to them over like the rest of the guitars they own, right? For whatever reason it might be. So most of these episodes of this series will probably be like at shows or backstage somewhere, or you know, just wherever I can like get people to do this at. But I'm at my house, and so I'm gonna do the first episode about my favorite guitar that I have and why it's my favorite and why I decided to buy it and all that kind of thing. So this is just going to be something different I do. I'm still going to do like gear videos and the, you know, demo videos, stuff like that. But I thought this would be a cool kind of thing to just hear some people's stories about their favorite guitars and why they bought them or how they acquired them, etc. So here we are, Guitar Stories, episode 1, me with my 1987 Gibson Les Paul Custom. Now, you guys have seen this guitar on the channel so many times, and I've talked about it before, and you've heard it a million times. So I'm not going to bother with like making a demo on this or anything. I'm just going to talk about this guitar. If you want to hear the guitar, look at some of the other videos. There's plenty of videos of me playing this guitar on the channel and talking about it. But I'm going to give you the rundown as to why this specifically, right? A white 1987 Gibson Les Paul Custom. So the serial number on this guitar is 3 days after my birthday. And the minute I saw this guitar, I just fell in love with it. And the reason why is because when I was younger, so when I was younger, I'll get ahead of myself here. When I was younger, the first electric guitar I ever got was like a Squire Strat. And it was cool, and I really liked it. But you know, I was a kid, and I didn't know anything about guitars. I didn't have any preferences yet, right? My dad had a Strat, so I was like, cool, I got a Strat. But my dad has a 1973 Cherry Sunburst Les Paul Custom. And I was obsessed with that guitar as a kid. I just thought it was the coolest looking guitar I'd ever seen. I still think it's the coolest looking guitar I've ever seen, even to this day. Like, I love that guitar. And I was like, I always wanted a Les Paul Custom. And when I was 16, my dad bought me a white Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Because I started playing in bands, and the Squire Strat, the kind of music I was playing, the Squire Strat just wasn't cutting it. You know, I started to get into like punk and hardcore and metal and stuff like that. And the Strat, I had like pulled the pickups out and tried to put a humbucker in it, and it didn't work, and all this stuff. And so I needed a guitar that was going to do what I wanted to do. And the local music store had a white Epiphone Les Paul Custom, and I don't have that guitar anymore. I wish I still did. If I had that guitar, I would be making this video about that guitar, because that was the first Les Paul of any type I ever got, and I absolutely love that guitar. And I didn't sell it. It got stolen from me, which just breaks my heart, because that guitar had been in disrepair and hadn't worked, because I played thousands of shows with it and toured with it, and it was kind of just living under my bed in a case with a bunch of parts in it. And I took it to a friend of mine and dropped it off to him and had him completely rebuild the guitar. And then, like, a couple of months after it got rebuilt, I take it to a show and it gets stolen. Anyway, that's not what we're here about. We're here about this. So, it seemed like all of the bands I was into, I kept seeing white Les Paul Customs. I was really into Rancid when I was a teenager. They're a punk rock band, if you don't know who they are. But one of their guitar players, Lars, it was actually an Epiphone, it wasn't a Gibson. He played a white Epiphone Les Paul Custom. It was covered in stickers and stuff. I thought it was the coolest guitar in the world. That's why my dad was going to buy me a Les Paul. He bought me the white Epiphone, because I was like, yes. I was really into a band called Thursday. Still am. They're a great band. Their guitar player, Tom, had a white Les Paul Custom. Fleetwood Mac, Lindsey Buckingham had a white Les Paul Custom. And I was into classic rock, because that's the kind of stuff my dad's into, and so we were always listening to that kind of stuff. And it just seemed like I kept seeing white Les Paul Customs. I remember when Avenged Sevenfold started to blow up, there was like a video of them playing at Warped Tour, and I can't remember which one it was, but one of those guys, it might have been Sinister, like before the Schecter stuff, like he had a white Les Paul Custom. And Zach Wilde, he modded his and, did the bullseye thing, but like it's still a white Les Paul Custom. Randy Rhoads, white Les Paul Custom. So I just started to like become obsessed with this idea of the white Les Paul Custom. I was like, I gotta have a white Les Paul Custom. I really want one. And I had my Epiphone, and I loved that guitar. And so I was like, one day I'm gonna have a white Gibson Les Paul Custom. So my band was playing a show one time, and there was a band playing, and I don't remember the name of the band. I don't remember this guy's name. I wish I did. But he had this really cool old, I think it might have been like the Gibson Sonics, but it was faded, white and everything. And I remember asking him about it, and he was like, yeah, it's a 1985, because that's when I was born. It's the year I was born. And I had never even thought about, like, let me get a guitar that was made the year I was born. And when he said that, I was like, that is super cool, to have a guitar that was made the same year you were made. And if you really wanted to be specific, you could have like a birthday guitar, which pretty close. But I hadn't even thought of that yet. I was just like, wow, a birth year guitar, that'd be cool. Because it didn't even occur to me that you could find a guitar with the serial number of your exact birthday. But I digress. So over the years, that thought of like a white 87 Les Paul Custom just was always in my mind, and I was always kind of keeping an eye out, looking for one. I never had the money, I was in a band, I was playing all the time, and, struggling musician thing. I was like, I just never had the money for any kind of Les Paul Custom. So I'd kind of stopped thinking about it. And years go by, and it is 2020. And I think we all know how 2020 went, so that's all I'm going to say about that. But at the beginning of 2020, I had just started dating my now fiance, and we've been dating maybe 2 or 3 months. I think we started dating in like February of 2020, and this was in like April, like late April of 2020. So we've been dating maybe like 2 or 3 months tops, right? And we were just at the house one day hanging out, and my roommate who lived with me at the time, my buddy Tyler, like the bros do, me and Tyler are just sitting in the kitchen on our phones, like scrolling through Reverb, looking at guitars. And I'm like, oh man, look at this, look at this, look at this, you know. And my girlfriend, or now fiance, is sitting there just kind of like, you know, laughing at us because we're looking at all these crazy guitars that we can't buy. And she was like, so this is what she said. She said, so what, you know, if you could buy anything you're looking at, what would you buy? And I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, well, you know, I was like, I'm not sure. And she was like, okay, your dream guitar. Like, if you could get on there and find your dream guitar, regardless of money, you know, what would it be? And I was like, well, it'd be a 59 Sunburst Les Paul, right? Like, you know, a $400,000 guitar, right? So we all kind of laugh, you know, of course it would, right? Who wouldn't buy that? If money wasn't an option, who wouldn't buy that? But I was like, realistically though, a white 1987 Les Paul Custom. I'm like, that's the guitar I've always wanted. That's, you know, because it's a combination of those things, like the birthier thing, and then me having the white Epiphone and it getting stolen, and all of my like guitar heroes, it seemed like when I was growing up, all of them had white Customs, and I was like, I would really love to have that combination. I'd love to have an 87 white Custom. I was like, I'd love to have any white Custom, but if I could find an 87, that would be insane. And so, you know, we're like, yeah, that's cool. And she asked Tyler the same thing, and he said something. I don't remember what he said. He said something, and we were kind of like, yeah, okay. And then it kind of started bugging me, though. I was like, well, I wonder if there's one on Reverb, right? Like, if I just typed in white 1987 Gibson Les Paul Custom, like, what would pop up, right? And so I typed it in, and I hit search, and I swear, I think it was like the first or second listing. It was a picture of this guitar, and it was like white 1987 Gibson Les Paul Custom, all original, blah, 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 etc., right? And I was like, no way. So I click on the listing, start looking at it, and it's a music store in Japan. So I'm like, great, it's in Japan, right? So even if I can buy it, I have to deal with customs and duties and import fees, all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm already like, I've already just, before I even clicked on it, I was like, even if I had the money, which I like kind of did, but not really, because trying to be a responsible adult and like not blow all my savings and stuff on a guitar, especially at the beginning of 2020, or, you know, right after everything in 2020 that happened. I'm like sitting at home, not at work, and I'm like, you know, yeah, I have the money, like technically, but like, no, I don't, and I shouldn't do the thing I'm thinking about doing, right? And so I'm looking through the listing, I'm looking at the guitar, and I mean, clearly it's a beautiful guitar, right? And I would just fell in love with it immediately. The way it's aged, the kind of like little spots of damage it has on it, you know. So I knew that this guitar had been played. And so this is kind of here's a little guitar philosophy for you, okay? If you see a 36-year-old guitar that looks brand new, probably a reason why no one played it, right? If you see a 36-year-old guitar that looks like this, that has all of this wear and tear on it, and it's faded, and the finish is all rubbed, the clear coat's all rubbed off the neck, and somebody loved this guitar. Somebody played the crap out of this guitar, and it had, you can kind of see, or like they had stickers on it. So somebody in Japan, some guy or some woman in Japan played this guitar every day, and just it was clearly their favorite guitar. It had to be. I mean, look at this, right? They played this guitar out in the world at venues, bars, clubs, whatever. This guitar has seen it all. And so as I was looking at it and reading the description of it, I thought that's one It has to be one of those. It has to be one of those like magical guitars. When you pick it up and play it, it just immediately does the thing, right? It has to be one of those. And it was just bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. And my girlfriend, now fiance, she goes to Tyler, my roommate, and she says, I want to buy Devin this guitar. And he's like, okay. And she's like, I don't know how to do it. I've never, she's never bought anything on her Reverb before. She's like, I don't know how to do it. She was like, I have all this money from certain things that happened in 2020, and some people got lots of money from the government for various things, right? Like, so she had some extra money, and she was like, I want to buy this guitar for Devin. And Tyler was like, okay, well, first off, that's insane, and you shouldn't do it. And he would tell you the same thing. Speaking of, like, this is Tyler talking to her, he's like, you shouldn't do it, and he's going to tell you the same thing. But if you're going to do it, I'll show you how to do it. So he helped her make a Reverb account, and she tried to buy it, and her bank was immediately like, no, because she's never bought anything from a music store or a guitar shop ever in her entire life. And all of a sudden they see a charge for a lot of money to a music store in Japan, and they were like, absolutely not. And so she told me she kind of thought about it for a little bit, and then she was like, well, no, I really want to do this. So I kind of had some weird suspicions, because she was like asking me questions about some guitars and stuff. Like, not that she isn't like not that she just doesn't care about guitars or isn't interested in what I do at all. Like, she is. But this was a little more like than normal, So I was like, I kind of had a feeling like something was up. And Tyler was being kind of weird too. And then eventually she just came to me and told me, she was like, look, I tried to buy you this guitar. My bank wouldn't let me do it. They canceled the transaction. And so I was like, look, if you really want to, and I told her the same thing Tyler told her. I was like, you shouldn't, don't do it. But if you're going to, why don't we go to the bank and get the money, and then you give me the money, and I'll buy the guitar on my credit card, and then I'll take the money to my bank and put the money in my bank. And she was like, okay, that sounds like a better plan anyway, because my credit card I know is going to go through, because I buy guitars all the time, right? So they know who I am and what I'm doing. So that's what wound up happening. I made an offer on the guitar. This also let me make an offer on the guitar that was cheaper than what she had just tried to buy it for. So I made an offer to even see if they would accept it, because I knew that on top of how much this guitar cost, we were going to have to pay import fees and duties and all that stuff, right? Because it was coming from another country. So I made the offer, and they accepted it like immediately. They were like, yeah, cool. And I was like, I cannot believe that just happened. So the guitar is coming, to us, and I took the money to the bank, put the money in the bank. Everything was good on that end. Customs, like U.S. Customs, sent me an email immediately and was like, hey, you have to fill all this paperwork out. I was like, okay. So I fill all the paperwork out, and I filled it out wrong, because I've never bought anything that expensive from another country before. So I filled it out wrong, and they rejected it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. And so then they sent it back to me, and I filled it out wrong again. And the third time was a charm. I eventually read everything properly. I called someone and had them walk me through the process, and I was able to, because the guitar was in Memphis, Tennessee in like 3 days after I bought it. They're like, the guitar's, but like the shop in Japan, they boxed it up, they shipped it, wham, it was in Memphis, Tennessee like 3 days after I ordered it. And I was like, this is insane. And then Customs is in Memphis. Customs was like, we can't just give you this, right? You have to fill all this stuff out, et cetera, right? So I eventually was able to get everything sorted out, and then they told me, all right, fine, everything's good, we'll deliver the guitar to you. And I remember like seeing the day, you know, FedEx was going to drop it off. I took that day off work. That's how, like, I was like, I'm not going to chance anything. I'm taking that whole day off work. And I sat here in my living room and I just waited. And it was about 10:30 in the morning, and I see the FedEx truck pulling down my street, and they pulled up, and I've never been more nervous about anything in my life. I was so afraid that I was going to open that box up and pull that case out, and like something was going to be damaged, you know, the headstock was going to be broken, or I was just so afraid something like that was going to happen, but it wasn't. Everything was perfect, exactly as the shop in Japan had said it was going to be. And I had my dream guitar. You know, guitar I've always wanted since I was a little kid. A white 1987 Gibson Les Paul Custom. And over the years, I've done some things to it. You know, 80s Gibsons aren't known for being like the best as far as like quality and stuff goes. With some of the, like, as far as the build quality, the guitar is great. Which you can't judge QC on a 36-year-old guitar. Like, you can't do that. But everything's great. It's got the original frets on it. The neck feels great. Everything feels great. There's nothing like structurally wrong with the guitar. Just like the tuning keys were old. They were really worn out. I had to replace the tuning keys. The pots and stuff were... The guitar was really dark sounding when I got it. The pots had... They didn't have any kind of brightness to them, no top end whatsoever. And when I put them on a multimeter and like read their values, they were really off. So I pulled all the pots out, replaced all the pots with a brand new Emerson wiring harness and Bumblebee capacitors. I put new Grovers on it. I did pull the old tuner, like the tips off of the old ones. So if you look at it from the back, it's like the tuning keys are like new and shiny and gold, but from the front you can't really tell because they have the old tulip tips on them. So that was kind of like a little hack I did. I pulled the old tips off and stuck them on the new tuners. So there's that. I put new pickups in it, but I pulled all the screws out of the old pickups and put them in so that they match. They were like old and worn, and this is the original pickup cover, even though this is a different pickup. I put it over that pickup, so it looks, you know, everything looks good and old, but under the hood, so to speak, you got a brand new 50s wiring, you know, Les Paul with new tuners that hold tuning and turn well and everything. So this has been my main guitar ever since I got it, and I play it live all the time. I take it to shows. I'm not afraid to take it out because, you know, whoever had this guitar before me, like I said, they loved it, and they played it, and they played the crap out of it, and this guitar deserves to be out in the world, and it deserves to be on stage doing what it does, sounding awesome and looking even better, in my opinion. So that is Guitar Stories, Episode 1, my dream guitar, my white 1987 Gibson Les Paul Custom. So I hope you guys liked the video. Thumbnail, there it is. I hope you guys liked the video, and like I said, I'm going to corner some of my friends at shows and stuff and kind of get them to do something similar. Talk about their favorite guitar, or, you know, why it's their favorite guitar, all that kind of thing. So I hope you guys like this. It'll be kind of something different to break up all the like gear videos and tech talk stuff, you know, just kind of... I was talking to someone, a buddy of mine at a show one time, and he had said something to me. He was like, yeah, you know, I showed him a new guitar I got, and he was like, yeah, it's cool. And I kind of looked at him like, and he was like, I'm not really a guitar guy. Like, he was like, I'm a guitar player. Obviously, he was like, but I'm not like a guitar guy. He was like, I'm a pedal guy. He's like, I collect pedals. I have shelves of pedals, and I have all these different pedals. And that kind of got me thinking. Even back then, I was like, you know, there are different kinds of guitar players in the guitar community. You know, some I know guys that have walls of amps, and they have like 2 or 3 guitars. You know, I know guys that have shelves of pedals, and they have 1 amp and 1 guitar. You know, I'm a guitar guy. I have 2 amps, and I never play them. I play live with a modeler. You know, they stay in my studio, and I never take them out. And I have a couple of pedals. I got a couple of overdrives and some, HM2s because I like those. But I don't really have a lot of pedals. But over my lifetime, I've owned probably 100 guitars or more. I like guitars. I realized when he said that to me, I realized, oh, I'm a guitar guy. Not a guitar guy, but a guitar guy. I like guitars. I mean, clearly, I work for a guitar company. I set up guitars all day long. I love the instrument. And so that's kind of what this series is going to be focused on, is just my love for the instrument that is the guitar. So, hope you guys like this. If you do, please, leave a comment. Tell me what your favorite guitar is. Or if you haven't gotten it yet and you're aspiring to it, tell me what it is. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel because there's going to be a lot more of this coming. Plus the gear videos and the normal kind of, studio type stuff that I do. So, thank y'all so much, and I'll see you soon.